Thank you so much for inviting me. Can you hear me? Is the sound all right?
Yes, Mataji, it's coming.
Okay. So, let's see. Since today is Prabhupada's appearance day there in India, I thought maybe I should read some words of Srila Prabhupada. I have my own Vyas Puja offering. Maybe I'll read that first. I'm not sure what to do first, but I will read this Vyas Puja offering that I've written for Srila Prabhupada. This is the 124th anniversary of the appearance of Srila Prabhupada in this world. So I will read this to you. Then I'll read some of Prabhupada's poetry, and then speak a little bit from some glorification of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nivishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarane. Dear Srila Prabhupada, today as we shelter in place due to the coronavirus, we must bow at your feet again and again and thank you for the unprecedented shelter you have given us. You have created our good fortune and good fortune for a misguided world that without you remain baffled. Just as Hanuman, the great servant of Lord Ram, slipped into Lanka, the kingdom of Ravana, unnoticed in a tiny form and set the whole city on fire, while the evil Ravana prepared to wage war, in the same way you entered New York City, the kingdom of Kali, anonymously as a penniless elderly Indian Swami, as our government waged war on Vietnam, and we, the youth, waged war on our government. We wanted to create a revolution against the system, but the revolution you sparked, this is a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misguided civilization, that's the end of the quote, has changed the course of human history beyond anything we could have fought for or imagined. Without the shelter of your compassion and your sheltering words of wisdom, we, the youth of the 1960s counterculture, were perhaps the most impious and misdirected the world had ever seen. The revolution you sparked has been noted by renowned scholars as well. Professor A.L. Basham writes in his A Cultural History of India, a new aspect of the counterattack from the East is the importation not only of the mystical gnosis of India, but also her simple faith. This is chiefly the work of what is generally called the Hare Krishna movement, founded by Swami Prabhupada. The society now has branches in many of the larger cities of the West, and its adherents follow the rituals of the devotional Vaishnavism of the Chaitanya sect of Bengal. The movement is historically very significant, for now, for the first time since the days of the Roman Empire, an Asian religion is being openly practiced by people of Western origin in the streets of Western cities. This simple faith he refers to is the revolutionary faith you bestowed upon us and upon the world, that we are immutable spirit, beyond this world of matter and existing eternally as Krishna's loving servants. Under your shelter, inspired by the pinnacle of your example, the deathless nectar of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes is being tasted and shared all over the world. Under your shelter, the people of the world are experiencing a revolution in consciousness, realizing the purpose of life, ending their suffering, and reawakening joy in consciousness of Krishna. You warned us that this world is a place of danger. Now, at a time when the whole world is sheltering in fear of the coronavirus, we hold your lotus feet to our hearts as our only real and fearless shelter, aspiring to be an eternal servant of your revolutionary and divine instructions, Rukmini Devi Dasi. So thank you. This is my offering to Srila Prabhupada this year. And I thought I would read to you, thinking about Srila Prabhupada and his Vyas Puja, and thinking about his greatness and the great devotion of his servant, beloved servant Bhakti Charu Maharaj. I thought I would read a little bit from Prabhupada's poetry called Viraha Astaka that he wrote feeling separation from his Guru Maharaj after the disappearance of his Guru Maharaj. So I'm going to read the third of 8 verses, and then I'll read the last one, and then I'll read some other verses of Srila Prabhupada. So he wrote this in Bengali and in English. He says, "You instructed everyone you met to chant Lord Krishna's holy name. You showed the example by continually reciting the Maha Mantra into everyone's ears. You empowered everyone with the further qualification to distribute that holy name. But now, by the influence of Maya, there is only darkness everywhere. The souls truly attached to worshiping the Lord always sing and dance in joyful Sankirtan, following in the footsteps of their spiritual master. They deliver the whole world. But those with no such qualification perform Nirjana Bhajan, so-called confidential worship in a solitary place, thus acting whimsically. All of them actually remain absorbed in personal sense gratification. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-30, an ordinary soul should never imitate the activities of the Supreme Lord, even in his mind. For those indulging in such imitation, the teachings of pure devotional service are all spoiled. You preach that utility is the principle. One should act with detachment while using appropriate things procured by modest means in the Lord's service. In such detached devotional service to Lord Krishna, each and every house would become a temple. But these days, wherever one looks, the exact opposite is evident. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, he writes to his Guru Maharaj, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I am utterly despondent. That was the 3rd verse. And here is the 8th verse of that Astakam. Lord Chaitanya's method of devotional service is not performed by solitary worship. You stress this point again and again when training your disciples. You explain to us all that our preaching method is in the mood of Lord Chaitanya when he showed mercy to deliver the rascals Jagai and Madhai. The world is now filled up with many Jagais and Madhais to deliver. Everyone is anxiously awaiting the arrival of Chaitanya Nitai's mercy. If at such times as these, you were personally to return to this world, once more chanting the holy names and preaching in the same merciful mood of the Lord, and if there were enthusiastic preaching activities again taking place in every direction, then all the people as before would be stirred up in blissful excitement. Your profound roaring would cause demons and atheists to flee, and your narrations of Lord Chaitanya's message would fill the hearts of sincere souls. Again, the whole world would be excitedly bustling with good tidings, but now in your absence, everyone is mourning the loss of the most precious treasure. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, you personally suffer to see the suffering of the fallen conditioned souls. On this day of your separation, I am utterly despondent. Oh, Master, in your absence, my heart is broken. Abai is hereby revealing only a small glimpse of his wretched sorrow in separation. And he signs this, Dina Hina Kangal, Shri Abhay Charana Bhakti Vedanta. And then I wanted to read a couple of the verses from another one of his astakas. This one's called Vaisishyastika, 8 prayers glorifying the distinctive characteristics of my spiritual master. This one's called Characteristics of True Renunciation. On that fateful day of your disappearance, O Master, I sorrowfully mourned in separation from my beloved Sri Guru. The disunion was intolerable. To worship you on this auspicious anniversary day, I have brought a humble offering of poetry in remembrance of your lotus feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's verdict is that renunciation is the most important thing. Not only that, but knowledge of renunciation must be delivered to everyone. The neophytes have no qualification to perform this preaching work, but you are an empowered devotee of the highest order, and you have given us clear instructions. If neophyte devotees are bewildered by a lack of conclusive knowledge, what kind of renunciates can they be? They will only be imitation renunciates, externally giving up things while internally remaining attached. True renunciation is the actual result of genuine transcendental realization. Without such realization, simply a display of renunciation is known as show bottle vairagya. But there is another type of show bottle vairagya used for the purpose of preaching. That is Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of the sannyas ashram, by which the Mayavadis are defeated. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is beyond the concepts of varnashram dharma. It is called Bhagavat Dharma and is meant for putting an end to all cheating processes of religion. Preaching cannot be successful by performing dry renunciation. Therefore, Yukta Vairagya, appropriate renunciation, is the topmost essence of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. The sannyas initiation you have given us is meant for preaching in devotion to the Lord. Only sinful sense enjoyers are unable to understand this simple fact. So then I wanted to read, this is the 7th of this Vaisishyastikam. This one's called The Merciful Qualities of a True Vaishnava. The Vaishnavas are famous as Paradukkha Dukhi, for they feel great pain to witness anyone suffering. This renown can be justified only as they increase their preaching. When devotional service to Krishna, which is eternally perfect, is awakened in everyone, then the demoniac personality of Kali will flee for his life, loudly wailing, "Alas, alas." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his followers, one must act for the benefit of all living beings. For a devotee, this work is the storehouse of happiness in the present life and in the next. This preaching work of the Lord has been entrusted to you, O God brothers. So please, together, in a unified endeavor, see that it is done according to the Lord's desire. As Vasudev Dutt said to Lord Chaitanya, after first bowing down before him, please deliver all the living beings from the whole material world. Just give all their sins and sufferings to me, who am the most fallen. In this way, you may relieve all the distress of the miserable conditioned souls. Vasudev Datta was indeed the best of Vaishnavas. Being sad to see the suffering of others, he knew that there was no real happiness to be found in his own sense gratification. Can real mercy be demonstrated by those who are not Vaishnavas? The Swamis who supposedly show compassion to others under the philosophical banner of poor Narayan are simply offenders to the Lord. The mercy shown by the Vaishnavas is scientific and authorized. Without the Vaishnavas' mercy in this world, the illusory energy is insurmountable. If there is a kingdom of Lord Vishnu, and Vaishnavas established on earth, then only will the people be happy. This is confirmed by all the great saints and sages. So this is from Srila Prabhupada's poetry. I had asked Parshuram Prabhu if he was able to post an animated video called When Great Trees Fall. Was that posted to this video link?
Yes, Mataji, we will show. If you want, we can show or we can post the link, whatever you want.
Can you show it right now?
Yes, Mataji, I will show it.
Okay.
Rocks on distant hills shudder when great trees fall. Rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind promised walks never taken. Great souls die and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls dependent upon their nurture now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms. Slowly, always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can depend upon their nurture now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms. Slowly and always irregularly, spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed, they existed. We can be and be better, for they existed.
So I hope you were able to hear and see that beautiful animation that was created by devotees in honor of Bhakti Charu Maharaj from a poem by a great American poet, African-American woman named Maya Angelou. So the end of that poem is very beautiful. We can be, and we can be better because they existed. So I hope you find some inspiration there. So I'd like to read you another poem that was written by a devotee, a friend of mine, Radha Sundari Devi Dasi, who lives in Mayapur. She knew Bhakti Charu Maharaj from the time of her early childhood. She's not his disciple, she's a disciple of Radhanath Swami, but she has been a great admirer of Bhakti Charu Maharaj since her childhood. And one morning after Maharaj's disappearance, she woke up with this poem. So I wanted to read this to you because I think it's beautiful. This is about Bhakti Charu Maharaj. She says, I once knew an angel descended from afar who kept his glance always above as to a door ajar. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'm going to send this to Parshuram Prabhu and see if it can be posted on the screen. I'm not sure if that would be possible, but let me just try. I'm not sure if this will work, but okay. So maybe it can get posted, but I'll start reading it. Okay. I once knew an angel descended from afar who kept his glance always above as to a door ajar. I once knew a traveler who headed to the west, a searcher, a seeker, a visionary, most noble in his quest. I once knew a man so young who chose to acquiesce all fortune's titles conferred before for a simple beggar's dress. His head bowed in surrender, his heart given in submission unto his Lord, his only master, with simply one ambition. He yearned to serve and strive to please with every word and deed. Not a moment wasted, no task too larger. His Lord was surely pleased. I once knew a lion, his effulgence, his shining mane, who stood ferocious, unafraid, to protect his master's name. I once knew an ocean, so expansive and so deep, filled with ancient wisdom, while the world indulged in sleep. I once knew a gardener, his seeds divine and rare, whose flowers bloomed fragrant and fresh under his loving care. I once knew a master whose care knew no bounds, protection, affection, saving grace that continues to astound. I once knew a father whose heart stretched beyond my reach. He spoke of walks and long talks, promises yet incomplete. I once knew a friend, loyal, fixed, and true. The rarity of such a bond, if only I then knew. I once knew an angel who saved me from fallen grace, his loving heart, his warming smile, like a mother's sweet embrace. One day I saw my angel flying fast and free. His heart's desire, his life's only goal, was finally achieved. I cried out to my angel, "You've left me, gone back home." He called back with a laugh, "Would I ever go alone?" I have returned, it's true, but left ajar the door. I still need an assistant here, and so many precious more. No one asks who's qualified by age or name or gender. No space for frivolous frivolities, too much service to render. Oh yes, so much service here, many old friends to meet. I'll take you to their audience and offer you at their feet. You may not see their forms or mine as your eyes have known, but your heart will know and overflow, knowing you were not alone. So look up ahead and within, prepare to pass the test. Get yourself to this golden door, and I'll do all the rest. So I hope you like this beautiful poem by my dear friend in honor of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So if I could give some thoughts about Bhakti Charu Maharaj, I would say that we can all ask, what does it mean to be a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord? And what qualities would we see in such a person? And it seems, I think, so obvious to our whole international community that Bhakti Charu Maharaj always exemplified those exemplary qualities. I think of the prayer to the 6 Goswamis. The second verse says, "Dira dira janapriyo priyakaro," that the 6 Goswamis were dear to the Dhiras, those who were self-controlled, and they were dear to the ruffians as well, those who were not self-controlled. It's even said that Sanatana Goswami in Vrindavan used to give household advice, family advice to the different Brajavasis, and they called him Baba. They were so fond of him. So Bhakti Charu Maharaj was like that. He was dear to everyone in our society, from the smallest to the lowest to the most exalted members of our society. He was merciful to all, and Srila Prabhupada recognized his character from the very beginning. Sometimes we say about someone that he or she is a good judge of character. So what to speak of Srila Prabhupada? How can we imagine what a good judge of character Srila Prabhupada was? And he recognized the extraordinary character of Bhakti Charu Maharaj from the very beginning. And he gave him first initiation and second initiation at the same time, as you all know. And then very shortly after that, he gave him sannyas. But many of the senior disciples were protesting because this was unprecedented. They were saying, well, Srila Prabhupada, he may fall down. He shouldn't receive sannyas so quickly. And they didn't see his character, his effulgent character, the way Srila Prabhupada did. And Srila Prabhupada was adamant, and he told them that no, that he recognized his purity. He recognized his pure character. There's a beautiful story that during the last days of Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada was very, very ill and bound to his bed, not speaking, Tamal Krishna Maharaj needed someone to go to Delhi to do some service. And he said to Srila Prabhupada that he was thinking of sending Bhakti Charu Maharaj to Delhi for this service. And Srila Prabhupada just said, hmm. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because he was so close in Srila Prabhupada's service, he could understand that Srila Prabhupada didn't want him to send Bhakti Charu Maharaj away, that he wanted Bhakti Charu Maharaj to stay with him by his side at every moment during those last days. So what a beautiful testament to the great character of Maharaj. And I think when we think, sometimes we think, well, what would Srila Prabhupada do in this situation? Or what would Bhakti Charu Maharaj do in this situation? We can always think of his exemplary, merciful character and his kindness to everyone. I remember once Gauravani and the other youth were having a 24-hour kirtan in New Vrindavan, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj was there at that time, and he came to their kirtan, and he was so overjoyed to see this second generation of youth carrying on the Sankirtan of the holy name in such an enthusiastic way, as he always did. His heart was always in chanting the holy name and singing beautiful bhajans to Krishna. So that was very inspiring to him, and very inspiring to them, that they received his appreciation. Once in Los Angeles, Bhakti Charu, Gauravani was about 2.5 years old, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj held his hand and took him by the hand, and the two of them by themselves walked all the way down to the end of Watsika Avenue, talking to each other. Most merciful Bhakti Charu Maharaj with a little tiny 2.5-year-old boy, just giving him mercy and kindness. Once in our temple here in Washington, D.C., we had a banner up above the altar for Lord Chaitanya's appearance day with a quote from the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the banner said, may that Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. So it was beautiful. It was like a blessing for everyone who walked in the temple to be blessed by Lord Chaitanya. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj was so struck by that. And he sat down and he gave a class all about Lord Chaitanya and being, having our hearts become resplendent with the mercy of Lord Chaitanya by seeing that banner. So he was a great example of what it means to be a pure Vaishnava, so beloved to Srila Prabhupada. And I think he is a pinnacle of devotion for all of us, what it means, what we can aspire for, how to be kind to everyone, always. And so these are some thoughts about the great character of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And I know you must all be feeling great separation from his presence. So it's not as though you ever stop crying, but those tears should become more deep in your heart and should be an impetus to serve and in great remembrance and in great enthusiasm, the way he always served Srila Prabhupada, and to keep Srila Prabhupada in the center of ISKCON always. I'm on the Sabha committee, and just before leaving India, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, it was in the middle of the night in India, and he called up our Sabha chairman, Nishringananda Prabhu, in the middle of the night in India, and he was calling him to ask him, what do you think? Will we be able to keep Prabhupada in the center of ISKCON? Will we be able to keep Prabhupada's mission together with Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya, always in the center? And Nishringananda Prabhu was so amazed to receive this call when it was maybe 3 o'clock in the morning there in India, 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was saying, Maharaj, you're thinking of this in the middle of the night there. And yes, we all need to work for this beautiful goal. So I think if you really want to be true to him, this is very important, to keep this passionate inspiration that Prabhupada's mission, that Prabhupada be kept in the center, that we not divide and split apart into so many sectarian groups with different gurus and their disciples, and break Prabhupada's mission apart. This was very, very important to him, and it was his great inspiration, and always and especially in his last days. So yeah, this reminded me very much of when Srila Prabhupada called for Giriraj Maharaj in his last days. And he asked Giriraj Maharaj, will it go on? Will the Krishna consciousness movement go on? So this just really shows how Bhakti Charu Maharaj was so much in the mood of Srila Prabhupada. And please keep his mood going forward, and pray to him and to Prabhupada how to give you the intelligence how to keep this mood always in your community of God brothers and God sisters, and how to inspire the whole ISKCON with that mood. So thank you very much. These are a few thoughts, and if you have some questions, I can try to hear your questions.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you very much for the wonderful session. There is one question. Can you please share something about your early Krishna conscious life and challenges you gone through to fulfill the words of Srila Prabhupada?
Yes. My early Krishna conscious life. Well, Srila Prabhupada was not a stereotyped person. And I think these days people try to often think of Srila Prabhupada in very stereotyped kinds of ways. But Srila Prabhupada was always up for the next great adventure. And he would never say what we thought he was going to say, and he would never do what we thought he was going to do. He was always accepting the service of each individual. And although he had a great plan for his Krishna consciousness movement and a very long-term vision, he was also always enhancing that vision and illuminating that vision more and more, depending on the individuals who came forward to serve. So I'll tell you one story that Srila Prabhupada, when I was a young devotee living in the Boston temple, this was about 1969, Srila Prabhupada kept talking about, he kept saying, just try to become sincere, just try to become sincere. And it seemed like that's all I was hearing when he gave his lectures. He was repeating that so much. And it seemed as though that was the main and principal qualification, that if we could just be sincere, that Krishna would provide us all intelligence how to do what we needed to do. So after one talk in his room, I asked him, but Srila Prabhupada, how can we become sincere? And he looked at me very intensely and very seriously, and he said, I was very shocked. He said, how do you become a thief? And so I was really amazed. How do you become a thief? That was his response. So I said, well, you would practice stealing, and you would associate with thieves and learn to talk the way they talk and eat what they eat and go where they go and learn their best techniques. And so Srila Prabhupada was laughing, and he said, yes, so you must practice. So if we're feeling like we're not very sincere, we can practice being sincere. What would, like maybe if I'm feeling very morose right now and feeling the separation from Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and I feel like my life has just ended, we can think, well, what would Bhakti Charu Maharaj do in this particular situation? What would it mean to be sincere? And then we can try to follow that kind of sincere actions. So praying for the intelligence how to become sincere. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked the same question in Australia, and he said, how do you become a drunkard? So it's a very shocking response. How would you become a drunkard? You would associate with drunkards and practice drinking and find out from them where to get the best wine and all of that. So, and then he pointed to his disciples who were on the stage in Australia with him, and he said, associate with them. They are sincere. So it's very important at this time in separation, while you're feeling separation from your Guru Maharaj, to keep the association of saintly God brothers and God sisters, and try to keep the mission of your Guru Maharaj at the core of your heart. And talk about him and remember his pastimes, listen to his lectures, listen to the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, and always try to be sincere.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you. And there is another question. But he's asking, I wanted to take initiation, but now how to serve Guru Maharaj when Guru Maharaj is physically not present with us?
So the question, can you repeat the question? He wanted to take initiation from Bhakti Charu Maharaj, but now he's feeling...
But now how to serve Guru Maharaj when he is not physically present?
Right. Well, you know, we always hear that in ISKCON, we always hear that Siksha is more important than Diksha, but we don't practice that very much, because when personal association is available, we want to get that personal association. But now at this time, this is a time of becoming for you, especially to go very deeply internal and listen to the lectures of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, listen to the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, and pray very intensely to Srila Prabhupada, because Bhakti Charu Maharaj will always eternally be your very beloved Siksha Guru. But you can look for a Diksha Guru also and be inspired in your heart who that person might be. So that will require time and patience and much prayer. And you can look and see who among the disciples of Srila Prabhupada is sharing that mood that so much inspired you and inspired your heart in Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So see, and that will take some time. It will take some prayer, but Krishna will give you that intelligence. Krishna is really sitting in our hearts and waiting for us to turn to him. So if we turn to him and ask him to give us intelligence, to see how to take each step forward, to show you the next step, he'll give you that intelligence. If we are asking Krishna, please show me how to become powerful and rich and famous, and he will give us intelligence for that, because he's traveling with us since time immemorial, even when we're turning away from him in so many species in the animal kingdom, in the plant kingdom. So now in the human form of life, we've come to this human form of life, right? Bhajahure mana Shri Nanda Nandana. So now that we've come to this rare human life, we can pray to Krishna. He's waiting to hear. Actually, if we don't turn to him, he's sort of unemployed in our hearts. His job is to help us, give us intelligence how to come to him. So now at this time, when you're looking to see who will be my Diksha Guru, of course, Siksha Gurus can be many, and it's not a whimsical thing. Siksha Gurus can be many. Right now, you can listen to the lectures of people who inspire you and see who will be that person to give you Diksha. But still, that Siksha Guru, that Siksha that you've received from Bhakti Charu Maharaj is most sacred and will never be replaced. And as was stated at the end of that animated poem that I think is so important, because he existed, he gave us the vision that we can also exist and contribute to the world in heartfelt ways. But in bhakti, it's not about, actually Mother Teresa said something very profound, that we can do no great service, we can do only small things with great love. So whatever you do in your life, whatever service you do, try to do that with great love and beg Krishna to show you the next step for taking your diksha, and it may take some time. I hope this is helpful.
Yes, Mother, thank you very much. There is one last question. Please explain Shuddha Nishkam Bhakti, pure devotion, pure anila devotion, as per Srila Prabhupada.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Please explain what?
Shuddha Nishkam Bhakti, pure unalloyed devotion.
Pure unalloyed devotion. That's a beautiful question. Thank you so much. All of these are beautiful questions. Pure unalloyed devotion is given by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion in the beginning of second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, without being tainted by fruitive desires or desires for mundane knowledge. But we could say that pure devotion means to be serious, sincere, simple, and without ulterior motive. Lord Chaitanya explains this to Sanatana Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So to be simple, sincere, serious, and without ulterior motive. What does it mean to have an ulterior motive? It means to be making a show or doing something externally for some adoration, but having a different motive inside your heart. Like maybe executing Krishna consciousness, but maybe the real reason you're doing it is because you want to become a big, prominent leader with followers, or maybe with lots of material accoutrements, or maybe you're really looking for a beautiful wife or a qualified husband, and that's why you're in Krishna consciousness. So someone may have desires that are not so pure, but it's important to recognize and open our hearts to Krishna, because who really cleans the heart? Krishna really cleans the heart with our help when we're willing to do that. Like in the story of the Gundicha Mandir, Lord Chaitanya was the cleansing of the Gundicha Mandir. Lord Chaitanya was gathering bigger piles of dust than all of the other devotees combined. So I've often thought, well, who really cleans the heart? Is it ourselves? Do we clean the heart, or is Krishna cleaning the heart? So Krishna cleans our heart when he sees that that's what we want. So if you see that you have tainted material desires in your heart, just don't, like sometimes we say, there's an English saying, to push the dirt under the rug. So when we chant the holy name, if we're chanting sincerely, then sometimes these desires start to show and we feel embarrassed and we want to hide them from ourselves and from others. But really to take a microscope and to ask Krishna, please let me see my material desires and help me overcome these material desires so I can serve you purely without any ulterior motive, because I want to serve in this humble, sincere, serious mood without ulterior motive. So just to be a simple devotee, actually, what it means to be a great devotee is to just be a simple, sincere devotee without ulterior motive. And I think the best example of that is Bhakti Charu Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, because he was so simple and sincere and without ulterior motive. He was accelerated to the personal service of Srila Prabhupada. So the main thing is just to be simple, sincere, and without ulterior motive. And to be kind to everyone, to be merciful to everyone. No one is too lowly to receive a kind word, a kind smile, a kind glance. And that's also exemplified by Bhakti Charu Maharaj always. He always had time to ask, how are you? How are you doing? To the children, to the ladies, to every devotee. And no one ever felt dismissed by him. He was never too busy to extend his kindness. And Jesus Christ said in the Bible, as you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. And Lord Chaitanya says something very similar in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. He said, every one of the innumerable living beings is my beloved part and parcel. And anyone who causes pain to any one of them, he says something very strong. He says, if anyone causes pain to any one of the innumerable beloved living beings, I will destroy him. So if we feel like we're being destroyed, maybe we have committed some unkindness to some living being. And I'll just say one other thing in this connection. We had our Vyas Puja ceremony for Srila Prabhupada here yesterday. My husband, Anuttama Prabhu, was quoting an amazing story. He's read the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and I recommend that to you. If you haven't read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, please read it. It will be a great solace, and you'll get many realizations. So there's one story that we've read before, but we had forgotten. Srila Prabhupada in the beginning in New York, when he had first gotten this temple at 26 2nd Avenue, which is really just a tiny storefront, Srila Prabhupada was, the landlord liked Srila Prabhupada, but he didn't really like the disciples, the young boys who were there. And Srila Prabhupada told the young boys there, the new disciples, to treat this man treat him just like your father. And Srila Prabhupada was personally helping this man, this landlord, take out the garbage. So just imagine Srila Prabhupada, such a great, exalted personality who just come from Sri Vrindavan Dham, a perfect Vaishnava, a perfect Brahmana, a perfect realized soul. And he is helping this landlord in New York City empty the tenants' garbage. What can we imagine must have been in that garbage? Probably liquor and meat, cigarettes, and all kinds of unmentionable things. But Srila Prabhupada once said, this is Brahman, someone who is willing to do any service for Krishna. So I think these are examples of what it means to be an unadulterated, pure devotee, that no service is beneath you, no person is beneath you, and willing to do any service for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. So I hope this is a little bit helpful.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for such a wonderful answer. So these were all questions, and we are very thankful to you for your auspicious association today. We express our heartfelt gratitude to your grace for inviting us. And you talked about so many things like your offering to Srila Prabhupada, this year offering to Srila Prabhupada, quoted from Virahastakam, Vashashkastakam. And you told about Charu Swami Maharaj, the various qualities you mentioned, that how you mentioned from this Third Goswami Astakam, that how he was very dear to everyone in the society, merciful to all, and how Srila Prabhupada recognized him from the beginning, and even though senior disciples they protested for sannyas of Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, but Srila Prabhupada very adamant to give him, and how he was very expert in addressing or dealing with the devotees around him. And you gave the example of dealing with the children in Vrindavan once, and that how Gaurvani and the children were doing kirtan, and he glorified them, recognized them. They also feel encouraged. You told about that how once Tamal Krishna Maharaj wanted to send Guru Maharaj to Delhi, but Srila Prabhupada wanted him to be near, to be with him during that last moments. And you told about this, how Charu Swami Guru Maharaj was always absorbed in the thought of Srila Prabhupada. But before leaving, he called Nishingananda in the late night, and he asked about that how we can keep Srila Prabhupada in the center always. And you answered the question how we can always take inspiration from Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, the Siksha Guru, and for Diksha we can be inspired. We can find some God Buddha from whom we are deriving the same inspiration in the spiritual life. He told about the pure devotional service, simple, serious, sincere, and without ulterior motive. Thank you, Mataji, for all these wonderful instruction and blessings. And we seek your blessings to empower all of us so that we can follow this instruction and become a one servant to Srimad Prabhupada and continue to serve the mission of ISKCON throughout our life. And we want to invite you to the Ujjain to give your association. Ujjain, this is one of the most important, one of the most important project of Swami Maharaj. So whenever the situation is good, the corona situation, please come and give your association to all of us. Thank you, Madam. So
Thank
we
you.
express gratitude by loud chanting one time. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Rukmini Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much.